Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Stephanie Vick. I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. So I grew up using Signing Exact English. I went to a private school in Seattle where C was taught. I had speech therapy until about 7th grade. Because that school went to 8th grade, and so after that we were encouraged to go to mainstream classrooms. And so I was mainstreamed at my local junior high school, and I already knew some of my friends there. They were hearing, we played soccer together and sports and whatnot, so I had some friends already. And I was in a mainstream classroom. However, I went to several summer camps where I met deaf people, and there were no barriers to communication, and I really liked that. I love being able to be myself and make deaf friends, and I thought, you know what, I really want to go to the Washington School for the Deaf now. And so I tried to convince my parents. I worked really hard on them because they wanted me to stay in a mainstream environment. But I was able to finally convince them. They agreed to let me try it for 1 year. And so for 10th grade, I went to WSD. I had a great time, and I noticed that my signing skills improved, and I sort of came out of my shell a little bit, and I was shy and didn't want to sign in public before that. I didn't want to use hearing aids, but after I went to WSD for a year, I was more outgoing and less shy and didn't mind signing in public and really found my self-identity. And then my parents moved to Arizona. You can imagine an angry teenager not wanting to leave her favorite school, but we moved. So both my parents are hearing. My sister is here, Lauren Vick. Stand up, Lauren, say hi. Lauren and I are deaf. Mom and Dad are hearing. And we're really lucky, Lauren and I, because our parents learned sign language, and we're very grateful to them. They interpreted for us for family events. Even to this day, they'll still interpret for us. And they never complain. They don't roll their eyes. They don't have any attitude about it. It's great. They're wonderful. In fact, sometimes we're like, Mom, Dad, we're okay. You don't need to interpret anymore. Our parents have always been supportive of our life choices. They've always encouraged us to do more, be better, try harder, and I'm really grateful for that attitude and encouragement. How did I get into design? I was about 16 years old. I think it was 1999. And computers were large and clunky. I don't know if any of you remember dial-up internet with a modem, and you had to connect it hardwire to the phone, and you couldn't have someone on the phone at the same time. And if I was online and someone wanted to use the phone, I'd have to get off the phone or off the computer. But my parents were really strict with me, and so I was home a lot and bored. And so I taught myself coding and HTML. I made websites. I copied other people's HTML to make websites, and then I just tweaked that and made changes to it. I made like flashy GIFs and animated things and fun stuff, and I was just keeping myself busy and experimenting as a teenager. Let's see, I think I was a junior or a senior, and I was considering where I wanted to go to college, and I knew that I wanted to be in the design field. I felt like RIT NTID would be a great fit for me, but I did apply to other colleges and universities because you never know, I might have been turned down as a student here, and so I wanted, alternative places to go. So these are the places I went to. CSUN was fairly close to where I was in Arizona at the time, Washington University. University of Washington, pardon me. I felt like I had to apply there because my parents were alum. RIT, NTID, Arizona State University, and Gallaudet University. I wasn't accepted by all of them, but I was accepted by RIT, and so I made the decision to enroll here as a freshman in 2003. I was a digital imaging and publishing technology major. I was probably 2 quarters into that. We had quarters back then, for those of you who don't know that. You're lucky to have semesters now. But I realized that that wasn't the major for me. It wasn't a good fit. At that time, NTID had an art and computer design program, which was, what was the name? Sometimes I get it backwards. It was Visual Communication Studies. So I knew I wanted more than an associate level degree, and so I was considering transferring to RIT for digital publishing, and that worked out very well for me. I got into the program, really enjoyed it. While I was here, I was a Tri Sigma sister. That experience of being in a sorority really developed my self-confidence. I thought, well, I'll try it for a quarter. I was vice president. I thought I would give it a shot, plan events and whatnot, and it was really great. And doing those extracurricular activities in college instead of just going to class really made for a richer experience for me. I had to complete my internship in order to get my diploma and officially graduate. And I had 2 internship co-ops left. I knew I wanted to go back to Arizona. I could not deal with the cold and the weather here in New York State anymore. So I went back to Arizona, looked for co-op opportunities, wanted something closer to home. I applied for every job I could find. I didn't even know if I was completely qualified for most of the jobs, but I just wanted to get the experience of interviewing. Even if I didn't get the job, I just wanted the experience. I applied for about 20 jobs a day until I was given an offer. So I got an interview finally with this one company. They were a commercial real estate company, and they were brokers. And so they're people who sell houses, but they're more on the building offices, commercial real estate for companies and corporations. So I figured I have nothing to lose by going for this interview. I'm just going to give it a shot and see what happens. I had no job anyway, so what's the worst that could come of it? Got the interview. That went fairly well. They needed a marketing assistant at the time. And I didn't tell them prior to the interview that I was deaf, and it's not that I was ashamed of it. I just thought, I can tell them in person. That's sufficient to tell them when I get there. I wanted them to interview me and assess me for the skill I bring to the job and not for anything that they had predetermined ideas about. So I said to them, you know, I can use my cochlear implant, I can read lips, please look at me. Don't cover your mouth when you speak. It's kind of the common things we tell to people when we're trying to convey the ways that are appropriate and helpful for communication. And because of that, the interview went very well. I ended up getting the job. I was afforded 2 block internships there. And luckily, prior to my second internship being completed, they offered me a permanent job. So I stayed there for 5 years. I did design work, flyers, brochures, presentations, postcards, all sorts of graphic design work. Whatever the brokers needed, I created it. And I was able to communicate with them through forms and emails, written communications, and occasionally, if things weren't clear, we would have face-to-face, one-on-one communications that I was easily able to manage to get clarifying information to do my job. However, I realized it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. It wasn't my dream job, and so I decided to start freelancing on the side, designing websites. So back then, I was a big blogger. Blogs were popular back then, and so I created blogs and websites on a freelance basis on the side, and I just got jobs through word of mouth, and it spread very quickly because I was really busy at night and on the weekends. However, it became so busy that I really had no life. I wasn't setting parameters for my schedule. I was exhausted from working so many hours. And the thing about freelancing is you can be available 24/7. There's no separation of work-life balance, right? If you have a job, you generally work 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever your hours are, and then you go home. But I was answering emails and creating blogs and websites at midnight, and I felt like I had to constantly be available to everyone. And it was exhausting. Because of that, I wasn't necessarily happy with my job. I realized I wanted to make a change. I had about an hour commute one way to my job, and so that was exhausting on top of all the freelance work I did. I wanted to stop freelancing. I wanted to complete all the projects that I had in the queue for my side job, and I just decided to dedicate myself to looking for the job of my dreams. So when I would drive home at night from my day job, I knew I wanted to be close to home, and so on my drive home, I would look at the buildings that I could see from the highway. I'd try to remember the names, and then when I got home, I'd Google the companies to see what they did and what opportunities they might have for me. Because you don't know if you don't look to find what opportunities are available for posted jobs. It just so happened that in my community, we had a local community website, and when I checked job postings there, there was a design job available in my local community. And I knew the moment I saw it, it's what I wanted. It was 12 minutes from home, and I thought, this is the job I have to have. No matter what I have to do, this is the job I have to have. I knew I wanted this job. I applied for the job. And probably a few days later, after applying and not hearing anything, not getting a call back, and I'm not generally a patient person by nature. Anyone who knows me knows that. I went to their Facebook page, and I saw they'd had several posts, so I reached out on Facebook to them, and I said, hey, I applied for this job. I haven't heard back from you. I'm super interested in the position. And they asked for my portfolio and resume in return, and so I sent that to them as they requested. And then they said, hey, will you come in for an interview? Now, I don't know if I was the only person they were interviewing or if they had 20 or 30 people that they were lining up to interview, but I knew I had to stand out either way. So I did my research on the company. I figured out what their mission was, their vision, who they are, what they did, what their values were. You never want to go into an interview completely unfamiliar with the company. So I learned everything I could about the company so that I was well informed. The day before the interview, I drove to the building where they're located. I made sure I knew where it was and how to find it. I didn't want to get lost the day of, right? Because if you arrive late to an interview because you were lost, that employer doesn't care. They've got interviews lined up. They've got a schedule to keep. My boss at my previous company had not hired people because they showed up late for interviews, and so I had seen the downside of that. So I did my homework well in advance, and I was well prepared for my interview. And to stand out for the interview, I thought, I don't know, what about a cookie cake? That could be cool. So there was a bakery near my home. The company colors where I was applying was orange and black, just like RIT. What a coincidence. So I got an orange and black cookie cake. I think I have a picture of it. So Steph plus Brickyard equals awesome. The company's prior name was Brickyard. Now they're Rhino. So that was my cookie cake in the company colors. They posted that picture on their Facebook page, and then I got the job. So for the interview, I decided to wear an orange shirt with a black jacket and black pants to match the company colors. I mean, I just went all out. I had nothing to lose, right? I brought extra copies of my resume because I didn't know how many people would be interviewing me. I didn't know if the entire company would be there, and I wanted to have enough copies for everyone. And I didn't know if everyone who would be interviewing me had seen my resume. LinkedIn is something I want to let you all know about. If you're not familiar, they have these opportunities where you can recommend each other. And the company where I was prior with the brokerage company really encouraged writing recommendations for one another. So in addition to copies of my resume, I made copies of all of the LinkedIn recommendations that were a part of my portfolio. And so I printed those copies to be able to show folks so that I could explain what I did and they could see the recommendations of my former colleagues about my work. So during the interview is when I first say to them that I'm deaf. You need to look at me. I can hear with my implant. And no one in the room had a problem with it. It went perfectly well. And I never pretended to understand something if I didn't, right? I have to admit sometimes in the past I would sort of bluff, and it always was a big mistake. It always led to some misunderstanding that if I had just stopped in the moment to ask for clarification, to repeat the question or say the word again or whatever it was that I needed, then communication went much better. And they had no problem with any of the requests that I made of them to communicate this way. Afterward, I'd asked them through Facebook because I neglected to get the email addresses of all the interviewers, and so I asked them through Facebook if I could have the contacts of the people who interviewed me. I reached out to them. I thanked them for interviewing me, and I still wanted to know, one way or another, did I get the job or not? I wanted them to know that I was still interested and that I felt I was a really good fit and could contribute to their company. And one of the 4 people said, they kind of gave me a hint like, don't worry, you're in the running. You're probably going to get the job. So that was nice. That really gave me a perk. And I did get the job, and I was thrilled to have the opportunity. However, when they made the offer, I wanted to negotiate my salary, right? There's commute time, there's information you need to negotiate for your salary, and don't be afraid to do that. Just make sure that when you're negotiating a salary, you can justify the reason for your request, and you're not just saying, I think I need 10 grand more for the salary without any justification. So Rhino is the company where I work. They are Rhino Strategic Solutions. They are an internet marketing company. We specialize particularly in HVAC companies, which is heating and cooling companies. So when an air conditioning unit or a heating unit or a furnace or whatnot needs servicing, an HVAC company will service it. Other home types of service workers like plumbing or things like that, electronics, electricians that you may need. So that's the work that we offer services for. When I joined Rhino, we were a very small company, and I think that was to my advantage because I was able to build very close relationships with people in the agency. I was able to work with them one-on-one and really get a sense of who they were and the tone and tenor and demeanor of the company. So for the first few years, I was the only web design person. But it was actually nice because I kind of ran my own department. I was a one-woman show. They trusted me. I developed my own processes and procedures, and I didn't mind working alone as the solo web designer. We were a 12-person company. Now we've grown to about 25 people. My sister has interned for us twice now during the summer. We're hoping to be able to bring her back and do some more contract work. That is after she graduates. We just partnered with, I don't know how many of you know Gary Vaynerchuk. He's an inspirational speaker. He's a famous motivational speaker. People starting late in life or working in social media. Google him later and you can find out who he is. Anyway, we just partnered with his company called the Sasha Group. Sasha Group is a digital marketing company that will I think they picked 12 companies to work with for a few years to help them grow their client base. And so they're not helping with sales. It has to be that sales are already skyrocketing, and Sasha groups help companies understand who to hire and how to best grow in the most appropriate place. So that's who we're working with now. My leadership team and a few members just recently went to New York City to meet Gary in person and his group, and I'll show you a video. There's no sound on this video. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the services that Rhino offers. One of them is search engine optimization, or SEO. So that's when you Google something, our clients want to show up at the top of the list. That's search engine optimization. So if you're a heating and repair company, or if you're looking for a heating and repair company in Phoenix, that's what you're going to Google. And our clients want to show up on page 1. Right? How many of you, when you Google something, are going to keep looking at lists beyond page 2 and 3, right? You won't. You look at the top of what comes up on the very first page. So you want to optimize a Google search. Pay-per-click advertising, what we call pay ads, they show up in green at the top. There are probably 2 or 3 of them. And when you click on those, it comes out of the client's budget. I build an ad campaign with the client. They tell me their budget, how much they're willing to spend on a daily basis, and then I build an ad campaign to meet that. But it's important that it focuses on the kind of clients that they want to recruit. The relevant information needs to be on the landing page because it's one page and you don't want the customer to leave the page. So relevant information has to be there, things like company information or call to action like clicking on a button or using a coupon or having the customer call the client. You want all of the customer information ready at their fingertips. Usually, they have a special phone number on their website that's different from their regular customer contact information. And the reason why they use a unique phone number is because they want to have call tracking, data collection information. So call listening is a service that will classify calls by way of repeat customers or new customers, the reason for the call, be it new installation or service or a repair request. All of that is categorized, and our account manager on a monthly basis will look at that data and share it with our client. That we can say to our client, you've got a number of new customers or new installation requests, and that helps our client better utilize their services and their manpower, because sometimes clients think they need a new website, but really they just need to update the information or change a code or a coupon. So it helps our clients focus their efforts. It's good to have that. This is my part. I'm the web designer. This is challenging because I can't just design a website that's pretty. It has to be functional and meet the client's needs. So it has to work. It has to have all of the relevant information on there. Sometimes they want everything in a particular font, and I've got to make sure that it's balanced and looks appropriate and that it's not too busy. I don't want it to be content heavy at the top and content light at the bottom, so all of that is involved. So I need to make sure that a call to action, which is a purposeful button, so a customer will click on that to utilize a coupon or for a contact form. The point of the website is not just to share information, it's to get customers to do something, utilize a coupon or fill out a form. So I'll show you a website that I just designed. I'll go through the whole thing. So the first thing that I like to do is think of myself in the customer's shoes. So what's the first thing I want to see as a customer when I look at the website? I want to know what kind of company it is. Are they heating and cooling? Great. Where are they located? They're in Houston, Texas. Perfect. Is it for residential or is it for businesses? Or is it both? What do they offer? Do they provide service 24/7? That's on there. The phone number has to be in a large font. There's a button to utilize a coupon. There's one to schedule something right now, which is perfect because if a customer knows what they need, they can schedule it right there at that moment. It'll show what the company van looks like so a customer can recognize it when it pulls up to their home. If someone's pulling up in an unmarked car, they want to know that. Below that, you'll see the form, so a customer can click on that button and fill it out immediately. They don't have to go to another web page. And I believe this needs to stand out, right? Why would you pick a company? Could it be because they're dependable, or they've got wow service, or satisfaction is guaranteed, or because they'll wear booties before they go into your house so they're not tracking dirt? Or whatever the reason is, I want that to stand out. So I research the company so that I know what information to put on there. I have to ask my clients what's relevant to their business. You'll see 4 buttons at the top of that website, and those are the services that they provide: cooling, heating, insulation, air quality. Again, I'm asking the client, because sometimes clients will say, look, whatever you think, you're the expert, you decide, in which case they're trusting my knowledge of their company. So I need to determine what those important factors are. And I need to decide what it looks like when a mouse hovers over the button. Is it going to spin? Will it change colors? Will it change the background to an image? Or will it look like it's pulsing in some way, like you're pushing the button down? There's a number of options I have. Now for the content information, I can't just leave a paragraph without any image. I want to tell a story with pictures. So I block out the website. I try to sprinkle in interesting information along with images to make it visually appealing. So the picture at the top, below it, it talks about their cooling services. So I want the 2 children in the picture to look like they're dressed for a cool and comfortable environment. For heating, I've got a woman dressed comfortably like she's in a warm environment. And then there's the box with bullet points. Then I've got an area that talks about service because it's important for customers to know where this company's willing to drive. So they need to be able to see what areas of town they cover. And there are generally some links and some of the names in bold. That connects to our search engine optimization page. So if you Google heating and cooling repair in Rochester, it will link to that page that the customer can click on. The form is ready, and it's for the customer to decide once they get to the bottom of the web page, it's ready for them to fill out. It's branded with the client logo and information. So the footer is my last chance. The forms of payment that are accepted, social media contacts, address and phone number are repeated. 80% of people utilize their phones or tablets. No one really, if you're not home, do you think, I need heating and cooling repair. I'm going to wait until I get home and get on my computer. People don't do that. You're going to use your phone or your tablet and you're going to search right there in the moment. So we need to make sure that the response of the website is sized appropriately for each possible platform or device that can be utilized. So I need to work with a developer to make sure that pictures, if they're stacked horizontally on a website on a computer, they need to stack up accordingly vertically if someone were to be using a cell phone. You can't have too much information displayed on a mobile device. So when I began at Rhino, I knew that that was the place I wanted to be. And because of that, I arrived early. If I started at 8 a.m., I was on site at 7:55. My laptop was ready, and so I was ready to go at 8. I wasn't arriving at 8. You need a few minutes to set up and be ready to go. And if I had to stay late, I did. Sometimes creativity hits you, your mojo starts flowing at 5. Right? And that's the time when I might normally be done. But if I'm just in the groove, I need to stay. I don't want to stop what I'm doing and then try to pick it up again tomorrow. So maybe I'll stay 30 minutes late. Or if I have a deadline, absolutely I would stay late, right? Because I'm on salary. And salary is an important thing to know about your job. You're not paid hourly if you're a salaried employee. If you are paid hourly, then sure, 5 o'clock comes and you clock out. But you do need to be committed to complete your job. So as a salaried person, I don't always work 40 hours a week. I asked my sister one time, and we both work 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. And if you've completed a job and you don't have anything next to do, be assertive. Talk to your supervisor. Ask them if there's anything you can help with, or if they have another project ready in the queue. I always made sure that if I had a deadline, I completed the project well before the deadline. And I would check with my boss. I'd have my boss look at my completed work because I'd rather have time to make any adjustments or fixes than wait till the last moment. I hate the kind of stress that's caused by procrastinating. So I was always well ahead of deadlines. And remember, you're not there just for a paycheck. It's not just a job. At that company, it can be challenging as the only deaf person. There's no easy answer for how to work around that. It's challenging on a daily basis. We have Monday morning meetings at my company. We tend to go around the table and everyone talks about their weekend. My company really believes in having a family, small environment where we all know each other very well. And so we take that time to connect and talk about our weekend. Now, I can't see everyone. The table isn't round. It's a long rectangle. So someone on the end, I might have a hard time seeing, and so I need to ask my coworkers to move their chairs back or sit in a place where I can see them. Or if someone's always tugging at their beard, I'll politely ask them to please stop that. I don't care how many times I have to ask someone to repeat themselves, and my coworkers are never frustrated. I never see eye rolls or frustration. So just be yourself and ask for what you need. Some of my coworkers say that they don't see me as a deaf person. Because I'm not signing at work. There's no one to sign with. I'm the only deaf person. If I'm with my sister, I'll sign. But I'm using my voice with my coworkers, which is kind of nice that they don't see me as Stephanie the deaf girl. They see me as Stephanie the web developer. And I like that, but it can be frustrating at the same time because I need to constantly remind and educate my coworkers. And when new people join the company, I start all over again. I introduce myself. I explain the communication needs that I have, like they have to look at me and make eye contact and all of those important tips. If we have all-day meetings, then I do request that we have an interpreter because my eyes would fall out of my head if I had to lip read people for 8 hours a day. So they're very accommodating with that, which is wonderful. Also, we have Slack. I've seen some people sign it a certain way. We use Slack like an instant messaging, and so everyone in the company uses that. It's a nice way to communicate quickly, but I have to admit I'm a very visual person, and so I like to see someone face to face. So I want to ask them if they need something from me. I'd rather ask them, like, show me what you mean, or what is it you want, or show me on the website what I need to change. So Slack works on occasion for some things, but other times I like to speak to someone in person. So one thing I've recently learned is that I have visual memory. I don't have any auditory memory. So for someone who has regular hearing, you're listening to things and you have this ability to like rewind and play back what you hear. It's auditory memory. But as a deaf person, I have to admit, if someone says something to me and I'm lip reading the information, it's difficult for me to have that kind of auditory memory. But I do have visual memory. And I remember things very well visually. So if I need to meet with my boss or someone else in the company, I will take notes, or I'll have a project manager with me and they'll take notes for me. Typically, I will repeat what someone says back to me and I'll say, okay, so you want me to do X, Y, and Z? And it's a check for myself, but it's a check for them too. I want to make sure that I understand the communication instead of just kind of smiling and hoping I get it all. I don't want to have that cause trouble later. It's really good for my team. I will say to them many times, like, so what did you mean by that? Or can you repeat that? And they're wonderful. They'll explain things. They never roll their eyes. They never ask me to just figure it out on my own. They're great that way. And like I said before, don't pretend to understand what people say. Always double check. And I don't care if someone has to repeat themselves 4 or 5 times. If it's not working, write it down, Slack it to me, email it to me, or some other visual way to communicate with me. As a web designer, I'm doing all of the pages. So imagine if you're designing 80 pages. I've got to make sure I sprinkle each page with information. It's a lot of work. Also, I design everything for the company. So I'm making things like brochures, stickers, business cards, bumper stickers, t-shirts. It's a lot. I've designed over 500 websites with Rhino since I've been there. One of the other things that I have to do is every season, fall, winter, spring, I'm forgetting one. Anyway, I'm designing slides for each season, for each website. So heating and cooling isn't a very attractive business, but I have to be creative and try to get the customer's attention, do something to make them call for service. So being too hot is a crime. Make your AC a superhero. Contact us today to soup up. That, my sister designed that first one. The second one is don't bury yourself. This is spring related. It's a challenge, I have to tell you, every season to do something that's more creative than the last season. And so brainstorming is a really important task for me. It's not easy, but I like the challenge. My days are never boring. In fact, when I drive into work, I often think to myself, all the things I have to do. And then when I get to work, I realize, I've only completed the first 2 things on my to-do list. But there are fires to put out. A website might be down, or a client might not be unhappy, or they want something changed today. And it's important to learn how to communicate. I have to be able to communicate with project managers, account managers, because whatever they ask me to do, I need to be able to prioritize and shift my attention. So some of my tasks or duties might be delayed, and I need to be able to say, okay, the account manager needs this, so I need to tell the project manager that I have to push out what they need me to do. I love working independently, and I love being a team member. When I do what I love all day, it makes the day go by in the blink of an eye, and I feel like, wow, I'm home already? How is that? I love multitasking. I'm always jumping from project to project, a few minutes here, something else for a few minutes there. Some people aren't good at that, but I admit it works for me. 6 years so far anyway. No one's complained. Rhino has a very strong belief in a family-like environment and being close. They're good at separating business and work. The owners are married to one another, and in fact, they live right down the street from me, which is nice because they have that kind of support. We hang out with one another, we work out together, we're competitive together, we're there for each other during our high and low moments, which is really nice. We provide community service. In fact, both of the owners really believe in community service. So once a month on Fridays, in fact, one of those pictures talks about feeding hungry children. So we work with the food bank, and they're able to ship food and packaged goods to third world countries. The picture below it, as the one woman explained, was that she was homeless herself growing up as a child. Her parents weren't able to afford snacks for lunch or to bring snacks to school. She wanted to change that, so as an adult, she wanted to have an organization that provided snacks for homeless kids because some kids can't afford dinner, and so what they get in school might be the only food they have until the next day. So it feels good. It's nice to be able to help our community together. We work hard and we play hard. We do team building activities once per quarter. Things like laser tag or iFly, which is indoor skydiving, or like painting activities, bowling. We've gone to the lake together. It's fun. So my advice to you, be actively involved. The one thing I regret when I was a student here is that I wasn't involved beyond Tri Sigma. I wish that I had done other activities on campus. I don't know what your options are now, but I wish that I was more involved when I was a student, instead of just going to class, doing homework, and partying. Because I really believe that Tri Sigma helped me build my self-confidence. It helped me to learn how to work with other people as a team member. And that's really, really important for you because in the real world, you're going to have to work together as a team with people. You can't just be all about yourself. You have to be accommodating to the needs of others. Some people aren't going to be good communicators, and you still have to find a way to work with them without blaming everyone. Because again, you're not there just for a job. And keep learning. Don't think that when you graduate, you're not going to learn anything beyond college. Technology is always changing. Google requirements or technology requirements. Every month, something new is coming up. My company really encourages that sort of continuing education. Once a month, we have educational requirements that we have to meet, be it conferences or classes or reading an article or filling out a questionnaire. And I have to admit that it's really helped me to continue my learning and growth. Technology is always changing every day, and I'm still learning things now that I didn't learn back in college because it's so different now than it was back in 2008. And be a self-starter, please. This is so important. Don't just isolate yourself. Be assertive. You have nothing to lose. I mean, don't be too aggressive. Sometimes that'll turn people off, but if you know your worth and you know your skill, then speak up and show the skill set that you have. You're graduating with a degree, so show it. This is a quote from Gary Vaynerchuk. Skills are cheap, passion is priceless. It's perfect. Be bold or be italic, but never be regular. Go the extra mile. It's never crowded. This is really important because that's what's going to set you apart from the rest. You have nothing to lose. My boss said to me before I came here, he said, give them some tips. You may fail, But you just need to pick yourself up and keep going. If plan A fails, then go to plan B. And if that fails, go to plan C and just keep going, because the only way you can fail is if you give up. I have no idea what I'm doing. You may feel that way. I do too sometimes, not professionally, but personally. Sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in my 30s. What am I doing? And that's okay. Everyone has a book, right? And you've got chapters in your book. And not everyone's chapters are in the same order. You don't always have to graduate and then get married and then do X, Y, and Z. Do what you love. Go after your dreams. I encourage you to try new hobbies because hobbies can lead you to new dreams. I encourage networking. For example, go to a cycling class and meet the people in the class and maybe start new friendships. Maybe you'll learn what their dreams are, or they work at a specific company and they might be able to refer you because that's something that you're interested in. You never know where networking is going to lead you. You might get your next job through networking. And everything happens for a reason. Bad or good, everything happens for a reason.